Hello and welcome to Setup Phase. Today we'll be setting up rollplayer adventures and go through some rules that you will need to know in order to play the game. If this is your first game, you will need to set up the campaign, which you will only need to do once at the beginning of the game. First, fill up the bag with the 36 attribute color dice, the ones that have a single color on them. The 2 color dice for familiars will remain in the box until they are needed. Next, you need to prepare the party journal. Check the numbers of players and, using the table in the rulebook, fill in the combat dice limit, play limit, and bonus play limit. For a solo game, there are 3 combat dice limit, 4 play limit, and 1 bonus play limit. Next, you need to create the characters. We will be creating a new character based on the pre-generated ones in the box. If you want to use a character that you played in Rollplayer, the instructions of how to do so is in the rulebook. Each player chooses a character from the 36 available. If playing with 2 or more players, make sure each player chooses a character with a different class color. On the backside of the portrait, you have the initial stats for the character. Copy the name, race, and class to one of the character sheets. The initial health of each character is 16, so write it down in the health section. Record on the character sheet the attributes score. In our case, 3 for strength, 1 for dexterity, 2 for constitution, 1 for intelligence, 0 for wisdom, and 1 for charisma. Once completed, place the character sheet on the player board and add a number of stamina cubes in the tracks next to each attribute based on the number next to that attribute. Find the class card that belongs to your character from the 36 available. Add the class card to the board. The class card starts face up at the beginning of each adventure. On your character, you will also find the starting equipment. Locate them in the corresponding decks, weapons, armor, scrolls, skills, or traits, and place them in the hand space of the character board. Add the portrait card face up on the board and take a number of gold coin based on the number of players. For 1 player, it will be 7 gold. To set up each adventure, follow the next steps. First, locate the storybook that you are currently on. In our case, let's say that we set up for the first adventure. Keep the Tome of Encounters nearby, as it will be needed in all adventures that you will be going on. Place the map onto the table. Place your character board on the table. As well as the campaign log. The remaining steps are described at the beginning of each adventure, but in general they represent setting up encounter tokens, placing 1 XP at each location, and placing your character miniature on spot A. During the game, you will be reading paragraphs from the storybook or the Tome of Encounters. At the beginning of each paragraph or at the end of each paragraph, you will be directed to go to another paragraph based on the choices that you want to make or choices that you have made in the past. The game keeps track of the progress through the story in 2 ways. Keywords will be written down on the campaign sheet. They are available only on the adventure that you are currently doing and will be erased from the sheet at the end of the adventure. Titles are cards that you will keep from one adventure to another. When you will be told to gain a title, find that number card in the title deck and place it on the campaign board. Action indicators, the exclamation marks in the book, are resolved from top to bottom. As soon as the condition has been fulfilled and it tells you to move to another story entries, all entries below it are ignored and you move immediately to the next entry. In our example, if let's say there is no XP at location 1, we ignore the first prompt and move to the next one. We collect the XP on the second prompt and then we check if we have any of those keywords. If we have the keyword goblin, we move directly to C5 without continuing reading any further. If we don't have the keyword goblin, but we do have the keyword alarm, we move to C2 and stop reading further. Choice indicators are presented as a question mark. One option from the ones presented can be chosen. In this example, one will lead to a fight and the second one will lead to a skill check of dexterity and wisdom. Some story options will tell you to reveal a specific card from one of the 3 decks: Discovery, Rare, and Titles. Discovery cards are usually items for the party to use or place on the map. I'll come back to those later. A Rare deck has cards that are added to the player's hand, similar to the starting equipment. If there are multiple players, they can decide amongst themselves who gets the card. Title deck has, as its name says, title cards. These cards are persistent between adventures and track your choices. When you get one, it is added to the title space on the campaign sheet. You cannot move from a location until you find a movement choice indicator in the story. This will allow you to move the party token from one space to another. Since we are here, let's take a look at a map. Each map is divided in rectangulars with numbers and letters on the sides of the map. Your party starts the adventure at location A. When you want to move, pick another location to move to. You do not need to visit the locations in order, but you must stop at locations that have an XP and start reading from the location entry in the storybook. If there is no XP at a location, you can freely skip it, but just as well you can return to it and explore some more. While traveling between locations, you will come across encounters. So let's say that we want to move from A to B, we will come across this encounter. The number of encounters are determined at the beginning of the adventure. They are shuffled face down and placed on the encounter spaces. When your path reaches the encounter, you must stop. Read the corresponding encounter number in the Tome of Encounters and follow the story until you are told to move again. At this point, continue your movement in the direction that you started. Let's go back to the discovery cards. One type is new locations. They are placed based on matching the coordinates on the side of the card to the ones that match on the side of the map. The second type of discovery cards are items. They are set in the item area of the campaign sheet. During the adventure, you will encounter this symbol, which lets you use an item. The item card has its art in the middle and the name at the bottom side of the card. At top left, you have a number which is the same as the number on the back side of the card, as well as a small stamina icon. This icon tells you the cost in stamina that every player needs to pay in order to use the item. To pay the cost, add a specified amount of stamina cubes to the fatigue box of your character board. Once the cost is paid, you can read an entry in the storybook. For example, in this case, you read the entry B65. You can use up to 2 items together. In this case, pay the stamina cost for both items and turn to the entry in the book which corresponds to the location letter, smaller number, dot, the larger number. In this example, we will go to B65.95. Familiar cards can be gained or purchased during the adventures. When a player gains a familiar card, add the matching 2-color die to the back. This die is considered to have 2 colors at the same time, and you can randomly draw it from the back from now on. If you lose the familiar card, remove the 2 colored dice from the bag as well. If you're told during the story to gain gold, add it to the gold space of the campaign sheet. The same happens for XP. Add the cubes to the XP area of the campaign sheet. You might spend them during the adventure, but most of the time you will use them at the end to improve your characters. Faction tracks represent the favor that you have with the 3 factions in the game: King's God, Starlit Door, and Dragul. At the beginning of the campaign, the 3 factions start at 0. If ever you are told to increase or decrease the faction track, move the cube for that faction to the right to increase the favor, or to the left to decrease the favor. Let us now take a look at how to complete the 2 checks that you will find during the game: skills and combat. The skill check has 4 difficulties, and when reaching a skill check in the storybook, you will be told which skill to check and its level. You will also have a success and fail passages that you will read after the check. To set up the skill check, open the storybook and find the attempted skill check. If it has any modifiers, find them in the modifiers deck. We will take a look at modifiers at the combat checks. The goal of the check is to cover the spaces with the dice of the same color as the border and the same number written on them. Next, you'll need to build up the dice pool. The number of dice needed is listed below the level of the skill checks. So for level 1, 4 dice, for level 2, 6 dice, and so on. At this point, players may choose to spend one of their stamina from a row on their board by adding it to the fatigue box in order to guarantee a color of a die. The amount of stamina required for this is equal to the number of players, but the stamina can be spent in any combinations by the player. So in our case, let's say that we spend 1 stamina from the charisma attribute by putting it into the fatigue box in order to add a purple die to the dice pool. The remaining dice up to the dice limit will be added at random from the dice pack. Once you have all the dice, roll them. After the dice are rolled, you can start manipulating them by playing cards. The amount of cards each player can play was determined in the campaign setup. What happens with the cards after they are played is determined by the icon in the top left corner. A card with no icon will be added to the discard area of the character board. A spend icon adds the card to the spend area. Cards with this icon can only be played once per adventure. So after being played, they are set aside for the remaining of the adventure, while cards with this symbol are one-time play and are returned to the box after being played. If a player needs to play more than the allowed number of cards, they can use a bonus play token by taking it from the campaign sheet board and adding it to their fatigue box. Multiple bonus play tokens may be used by the same player in the same check. Playing cards will let you add the dice of specific colors to the pool, which are rolled when added. Increase or decrease the number of die. Flip the die, re-roll it, treat it as a different color. When you do this, the dice is not changed with another from the back. It is just treated as having a different color. All the symbols can be found at the end of the rulebook. During this step, you can also activate your class ability by flipping it and performing the action described. Class abilities do not count towards the bonus play limit. Place all the dice that now match the color and number on their respective slots. If a die is placed above a reward, earn that reward, no matter if you complete the skill check or not. Usual rewards are XP and gold. So in our case, let's say that we rolled a 3 and a 2. In this case, we earn 2 XP. If you have filled all the slots, you have passed the check. If you have not filled all the slots, you have failed. At the end, return all the dice to the dice pack and all the cards from the discarded space back to your hand. Finally, read the pass or fail story entry. Combat checks work in a similar way, but instead of a skill book, you will use the enemy cards, with or without any modifiers. First, find the enemy that you are facing by the number on the back and place a green cube on the first space of the round track. Unlike skill checks, combat will take place over a maximum of 3 rounds. The goal is the same, to cover all dice spaces with a die of the required color and number. To determine how many dice you will roll in each round, look at the combat dice limit on the campaign sheet. Next, you can pay stamina from the tracks to add a die of a specific color and draw the rest randomly from the dice pack. Roll the dice, play cards, and place the dice on the dice slots. Once you have played all your cards, check if you have defeated the enemy or not. The enemy is defeated if all dice slots are covered. If yes, return all dice to the bag, return all cards from the discarded space back to your hand, gain the rewards below the covered dice slots, and turn to the corresponding entry in the storybook. If some dice slots still remain uncovered at the end of the round, you go on to the next round. Move the round tracker one space to the right and suffer all the counterattacks from any uncovered dice slots and from the new space of the round tracker. Usually they will cause you damage, in which case you will add the corresponding number of stamina cubes to the fatigue box. In this example, we take 1 damage from 6 not being covered and 1 damage from the round track. So 2 stamina cubes will be added to the fatigue box. Continue to the next round with the same steps as before. If by the end of the 3rd round the enemy still has dice slots which are not covered, you are defeated. The same happens if at any time you have a number of fatigue in your fatigue space equal to your health. If this happens, mark the next available box in the death track and read the defeat section in the storybook, and at some point the story will direct you to the death entry and the steps that you will need to follow in such a case. Modifier cards can hinder or help you in a skill check or in combat. When told to use one, look for it in the modifiers deck and place it next to the challenge. The printed text is in effect for the duration of that check. So you have been fighting, doing skill checks, using cards and getting damaged. It is now time for a rest. Rest actions are presented in the storybook by this indicator. When you rest, you do the following steps. Put a stamina cube on the next available space of the rest track. If you put a stamina cube in the 4th and final space, or you need to rest more than 4 times, one player will also need to return any 1 card to the box from their hand, discard, or spend space. Spend 1 or more XP by returning it to the supply. For each XP spent, each player draws that number of dice from the bag and rolls them. The result is the amount of stamina that player will return from the fatigue box to the supply. In this case, 5. Fill each attribute row with stamina cubes up to the attribute score for each row. Any excess is discarded. Flip the class card face up if it is face down. Return our bonus play tokens to the space on the party journal. Return our cards from the spend space to the player's hand. As soon as you read the end section in the storybook, your current adventure ends and it is time for improving your character. First, you will need to prepare the market. Shuffle each of the 5 market decks, weapons, armor, skills, traits, and scrolls, and reveal the top card of each deck. Players may now buy and sell cards. To buy a card, pay in gold the required amount specified in the top right corner. Some cards may have a discount based on the attribute score or based on a specific race. In this example, this card has a discount based on strength, so you reduce the cost with the strength attribute score, and this one has a discount for being an orc. No new cards will be added to the market if any are bought. To sell a card, return it to the matching deck and take 2 gold from the supply. XP can be spent at the Adventurers Guild. You can increase your character's health by spending 1 XP cube if the current health is less than 25, or 2 XP cubes if it is higher. Increase the combat dice limit by spending a total of 5 XP plus the current combat dice limit. So for the first time that you will extend it, it will be 5 plus 3 for 8 experience points. Increase the bonus play limit by spending a total of 5 XP plus the current play limit plus the current bonus play limit. For example, for a 1 player, we will be paying 5 base XP plus 1 for the current bonus play and plus 4 for the play limit, for a total of 10 XP. Increase the party's mastery level by paying the price indicated in the next unmarked box on the mastery track. For the first 4 increases it costs 3, then 4, 5, 6 and 7. After spending the XP, mark the box and each character in the party can increase one of their attributes score by 1. The maximum value an attribute score can have is written below the mastery track. At the beginning of the campaign is 4. Once the market and Adventurers Guild have been visited, you can save the game. Erase all keywords that you have acquired. Return all map and item cards to the discovery deck. Store the title cards and each player's hand of cards, portrait and class card. Record the remaining XP and gold. Mark the box of the adventure that you have just completed. Mark the favor box where the favor marker is on each of the 3 tracks. It will start at that location in the next campaign. Return or other components to the box. Thank you for spending your time with me. Have a nice day and see you in the next one.